Panasonic has released their brand new line of Lumix cameras, and one that we're going to share with you today is the Lumix LX7. It is a 10 megapixel compact camera, but don't let the megapixels fool you, and we'll tell you why. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So with cameras, you know, it almost seems like the more megapixels you can put on a box, then it means the better, but not necessarily in this case.
Yeah, you know, there's this megapixel war that's going on.
Right.
You know, it's a race to 1 billion. So what we did is we sat back and we said, how many pixels does somebody really need for their average photography? And well, how big a print do people really plan to make? Are they wanting to make 20 by 30s? Well, if you're not going to make a lot of 20 by 30s, this is the perfect camera for you because it's 10 megapixel, but what's important is it's better megapixels. We're using a bigger sensor in this camera, a bigger CMOS sensor in this one, than we do in any of our other point and shoots. And by making it a little bit bigger and using a fewer amount of megapixels, each one of those little photo cells that we call a diode, they can be made bigger, kind of like making a bigger window in your house. By doing that, we let more light into the diode, and it means that we're going to have less grainy pictures. So we're going to get really exceptional photos with this model.
Now, you know, before the segment, you did show me the differences of those sensors, and I mean, it was a lot larger than what comes standard in a compact camera.
Yeah, you figure it's about 30% larger, and you have some cameras now that are 18 megapixels. Sure. So you're really talking about 30% larger sensor with significantly fewer photodiodes, which means much better low light photography.
Now, speaking of light, what is the benefit of having the brightest lens?
Yeah, you see a lot of people, they see these f-stop numbers, and we put them on this little ring right here.
Okay.
And you know, it can be foreign language to a lot of people. Well, what f-stop means is how bright is the lens, how big is the opening, or what we call the aperture of the lens, to allow light in. Well, the smaller the number, the more light you're going to let in. Okay. And this is an incredibly bright lens. It's an f1.4 lens. So when I shoot this at its very wide, 24 millimeter wide angle, it's going to let tremendous light in, which means I'm not going to have to go to a very fast shutter or very slow shutter speed and get blurry pictures. Well, a lot of companies will fool you by giving you a really bright lens at the wide angle, and then when I zoom in and maybe want to get out to 90 millimeter, all of a sudden it gets dark.
Okay.
This lens doesn't do that. This lens stays f2.3 at 90 millimeters. So you're going to get a lot more light into this camera, even if you have to zoom in on your subject. And another benefit, you ever seen those beautiful pictures where the person's face is isolated and the background is kind of blurry, and it just looks like you knew that was the person we were taking a picture of?
Yeah.
The bigger the aperture, we can make that shallow depth of field. That's the secret out there, folks. You want shallow depth of field pictures. Big apertures do that, and using the zoom. So by going to 90 millimeter and using that big aperture, I can take photos that look like a professional did it.
With the LX7.
Absolutely.
All right, so now when having a CMOS sensor, that actually means faster shooting. Why would that benefit us?
Okay, well, again, there's a bunch of names, nomenclature we throw out there, and we assume you all know what it means. Well, we have CCDs and we have CMOS. Now, a CCD is a technology that gathers the light. It was what replaced film. The benefit of going to a CMOS, which is a different technology, is that it's more efficient. It's going to let more light into the sensor. It uses that light more efficiently, and it can do it faster. So I can have faster burst shooting with this camera. This camera can do 10 frames a second because of that CMOS sensor. Also, I can do full 1080p at 60 frame per second high definition video. So you know those 1080p TVs people are buying right now? Those are all 60 frames a second. So if you want the sharpest picture for that TV, this camera can do that. And for somebody who maybe wants to take more control over their photos, we have one of the few cameras in the industry that has full manual control. Now, everybody has auto, and if you want auto, it's got it. Trust me, it can do auto. But if you want to take control over your video and get professional results, this is one of the few point and shoots in the industry that can give you full manual control over your video.
Okay, so let's talk about that for photo enthusiasts that want to have that manual control. What about like all the buttons and switches and stuff you have?
Oh, we got them up.
Yeah, show
we
our
got
viewers.
tons of them. So
okay.
Up here we have what we call our aperture ring. This is what's going to choose how much light we're letting into the lens.
Okay.
Not everybody sees the world the same way, so we have an aspect ratio control. So if you want to do a square-shaped picture, you just put it into 1:1. If you know the pictures are going to end up on one of these high-def TVs behind me, you put it into 16:9, it'll be wide-angled. You have the ability here to adjust your manual focus or your autofocus. One of my favorite adjustments, though, is on the back here. So we have this little rocker switch that lets me control focus if I want to manually focus. But the cool thing is if I push inward on it, it engages something called a neutral density filter. Now I know that makes you excited. So for those of you out there who don't know, a neutral density filter is a piece of tinted glass that drops between the lens and the sensor. It allows the camera to get darker so that I can use that big aperture and make blurry pictures still. So if I want to make a blurry waterfall, I can drop an ND filter in the way and it'll give me a nice smooth look to the water. If I want to take a beautiful picture of you and have the background out of focus, I can now open that aperture wide open, which is going to give me that shallow depth of field, put the neutral density filter into place, and it's going to allow me to take a picture without it looking like just a big white field of nothing. So big benefit to the camera to have that neutral density filter in the camera.
So who would this camera be perfect for with all these options?
Well, obviously for professionals or for high-level photographers who are looking for a great walkabout camera to supplant their SLR to be used in addition to it. That's certainly a user and somebody we'd love to see. Feel free to buy one. But we have this fun IA mode, which stands for Intelligent Auto, which means this camera is going to be full auto for you as well. So if you want the camera to make all the decisions for you, it certainly has the ability to do it.
I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much. Last but not least, I want to tell our viewers about a special offer that we're giving them. Panasonic has partnered with a company called iFi, and they make Wi-Fi enabled SD cards. So with every purchase of the LX7, you get a 4 gig iFi Wi-Fi SD card included, and what that allows you to do is no longer do you need to sacrifice your image quality by taking a ton of pictures with your phones. Stop doing that. Use the Panasonic LUMIX LX7, use the iFi card, and then you can instantly share those photos onto Facebook, Instagram by using your smartphone. So again, another great offer. Thank you for offering that to our viewers.
No problem. We want to make everybody an Instagram hero by giving you much better photos on Instagram.
Much better photos. Stop using those phones, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is the camera for you. It's the Panasonic LUMIX LX7. It also comes with a free 4 gig iFi Wi-Fi SD card. You can buy it today at Rakuten.com shopping.